Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome along to one of our first episodes of Sofamanager Extra. I couldn't round up all the troops tonight, very, very sadly, so you'll have to deal with me talking about the latest topics in Scottish football. We couldn't leave you with nothing this week after the great response we got from last week's season previews. If you haven't listened to them already, check them out on our podcast pages, on Anchor, on iTunes, on Spotify, as well as the YouTube channel. And thank you very much to everyone that subscribed over the last week. It's been really, really great, so thank you very much. And if you are enjoying it, give us a thumbs up. Anyway, we'll come back to your fantastic comments and things a bit later on. Let's just dive straight in to what's been going on in Scottish football this week. First off, I'd like to write a little bit of a love letter to Aberdeen Football Club, who I think did absolutely fantastically down in Burnley earlier on this week. I was hooked on the edge of my sofa watching for the full, beyond 90 for the full 120 minutes on BT Sport, and it was an absolutely, fantastic game, for the Dons, especially. Scottish football's been on such a high recently with our performances in Europe, and I'll get to, Hibs and Rangers a little bit later on. But what, a brilliant start from Lewis Ferguson for his first ever senior goal, and that is a beasting overhead kick. There's absolutely no way to say it otherwise. It was just an incredible goal. I think the question I was asking after that was Barry who? Obviously the nephew of Barry Ferguson, apparently, but I think we've certainly got someone there that could contend with his footballing abilities in the future. But it was just great to see us on a platform, with the English Premier League. If you rummage through, comment sections everywhere, there's just so much disdain towards our leagues in Scotland, especially, pub team leagues, amateur leagues. It's not real football up here, I've seen, written on the BBC. And it was great to show that account of ourselves. The way I'm going to talk about it just now is as if the game finished 1-1, which it did. Aberdeen weren't beaten over the two legs, but they were beaten in extra time. But I think none of us, especially here at Sofamanager, expected them to go anywhere near Burnley in terms of taking them to extra time, and it was fantastic on the night to see, a real captain's performance from someone like Graham Shinney, who was driving at people. He just had that kind of grit and determination that you wanted to see. Also, Gary Mackay-Steven whipped out some of his 5-star skill moves from FIFA's in the past. So it was fantastic when he was in the ball, whipping the ball in for the goal as well. I thought Tommy Hoban was fantastic, the new Aberdeen signing from Watford. I think he showed his experience against Premier League sides and was very, very strong in what was an incredibly tough game. Burnley came out the first half and the second half with kind of pre-rehearsed routines that really scared the Dons' defence, who are run pretty ragged at times, but I think you need to hold on in these big occasions. I'll be interested to see what a performance like that does for Scott McKenna's future. Being touted by some Premier League teams, Derek McInnes coming out and saying he's of Premier League quality. And, that was the time to show it. And I think the defenders did struggle slightly on the night against what was a very physical, Burnley side. At points, it kind of turned into professional hoofball, which we're big fans of in Scotland. So you would have thought that suited Aberdeen, but I think the size and the strength of Burnley, it was difficult for them to win headers. Cosgrove maybe wasn't quite as active as he was in that first leg. I think he got the hang of it towards the end. Cosgrove again was brilliant. I think we saw that, when Stevie May came on for him, how good a job Cosgrove had done. But yeah, let's not kid ourselves. Burnley finished 7th in the Premier League last year. Are they a 7th place Premier League team? I'm not so sure. But the difference was clear to see. I think BT Sport were talking about figures of Burnley £38 million, and then Aberdeen's team costing £190,000. So it's not even remotely, comparable between the two. And I think on the night you would have never noticed, such a difference. And It was brilliant to see, and it kind of pains me to say this, but people like Chris Sutton were absolutely excellent, in pushing the Scottish game, pushing the Scottish narrative, saying, it is great football, to watch. Well, sometimes it's great football to watch, and Stephen Craigan as well. That was another thing. The commentator kept calling Andrew Considine, which was an interesting move, despite the fact Stephen Craigan said 2 or 3 times Considine. So yeah, I don't know what was up with that. English commentary bias, who knows? But yeah, Stephen Craigan, Chris Sutton, Darryl Curry, John Hartson, all really driving on, that Scottish narrative, which was fantastic to see. And I think the best result in Europe for like a non-Old Firm team in a long, long time. Hearts, put themselves up against Liverpool, getting a draw there, which was fantastic to see. I think that's the last time we really managed to push a Premier League side. Different circumstances. I think the Liverpool team was radically different, but just huge credit to the Scottish football teams that can push these top sides with such little resources. I think that's the one thing to say as well. Just because some guy's getting paid 10 times as much as you doesn't mean he can do 10 times the job. You go out there, you work hard, and you get your rewards. And I think that's what we've seen from all the Scottish sides this week. Credit also to Hibernian, who went through against Asteras Tripolis out in Greece. I think my prediction was, I wasn't sure about that. The rankings were still against them. That was still a tough tie. But they managed it. They ground out that one each draw. I think Tripolis lost their discipline a wee bit. The red card. But it's fantastic to see from Hibernian. I was incredibly disappointed. I think last year, a couple of years ago, when they were knocked out by Brøndby of Denmark, despite doing really, really well. And I think now, they're getting their chance to shine and show what they're truly capable of. Especially, I think what I said on the Instagram page this week was huge congratulations to Hibernian, who've qualified for the next round despite Effie Ambrose. I think that defence is something for them still to work on, but there's no doubt one of the strongest attacks in Scotland at the moment. Canberra, Stephen McLaren, I think, just signed up just there, which is very exciting to see him back. And apparently Area United man Lawrence Shankland being touted for Hibernian, but we'll come to that a little bit later. Something else to talk about, in these Europa League ties is the fan bases. An incredible turnout from Hibernian in Greece. There were ecstatic scenes as they went through, and then they'll go on to face Molde of Norway, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's team. Who are kind of, I think it's the sort of equivalent of that Celtic-Rosenborg tie, actually. So you'd hope that they'd do the same sort of job. I think they're kind of Norwegian equivalents of Hibernian. Aberdeen as well turned out in their droves. And lots of kind comments, actually, from the Burnley fans I was reading up on. Just saying in terms of, it's great to see how genuine, the fans were, genuine passion, money stripped out of the game, just, proper fans. And there was great banter between them on the night, singing O Flower of Scotland a couple of times, got some boos, who are you, which I think Burnley fans, gave a bit of back in the end. And I think it's nice to see camaraderie like that between two sets of fans. Unfortunately, not quite the same in one very, very small instance of the Rangers support. But I think, it's overwhelmingly positive for Rangers as well. There must have been, 45,000 at that tie against, a relatively unknown team. So it's a hugely exciting time, and I stand behind, my opinion of Scottish football, or the Europa League, is the best time of year for football. Speaking of Rangers, still they've obviously gone through against Aussie Czech. They'll go on to play Maribor of Slovenia, who've punted us out over and over again, Scottish teams, Rangers and Celtic. So good luck with that one there. But also out this week on our one of our favourite YouTube channels, we've had a podcast about one of their videos they've made before. Copa 90 made a video about Steven Gerrard being at Rangers and whether he would be enough to overhaul Celtic. And I think it's very interesting because it touched on, points I wanted to discuss about Rangers fans. So every season, the narrative with Rangers fans is always, are we going to beat Celtic? Are we going to get out in front of them? And that's the only, all else, doesn't matter. It's basically Celtic or bust. I don't think fans are hugely bothered about finishing, third as they did last year behind Aberdeen. I think it was the main thing about last season was, can we get our performance against Celtic? Now, with Steven Gerrard coming in, obviously that narrative's come back. Can they challenge Celtic? And I watch, a lot of these YouTubers and their previews out there, CG Novo 992, big fan, by the way, and they're always convinced, we're going to beat Celtic this year, and it's an extraordinary belief that I think the Rangers fans have, and it is great, don't get me wrong, to see that positivity, but I've never felt that, with my own team. I've not come out this year and said, Falkirk are going to storm the league. Quite the opposite, or, Aberdeen or whatever. And it's just every year they dust themselves off no matter what the finish, especially, in the kind of rough seasons gone by. But they are still convinced that their club can do it. Looking from an outsider's view, I think, the Celtic have had so long, to build that team. They talk about, the 5 years where they weren't there, the so-called banter years. And I think, Celtic did that slowly over a period of time. And I think to beat them, you're going to have to do the same sort of thing. So, take 3 or 4 years to really build your youth, get them involved. Because you look at the fruitfulness of people like, Callum McGregor coming through, James Forrest, Kieran Tierney. That's a real spine of that Celtic team. And, for me, Rangers was always, or when I was growing up at least, they were always where the top Scottish talent was. I know that's not been the case of years gone by with the big, international stars. But I think that's how they would do it instead of, this instant success that everyone craves. Not everybody. I suppose I'd be interested to see if there's any Rangers fans watching, comment down below what you'd expect from the team this year and what you would want. But I just thought it was interesting that this Gerrard hype train, has reached, such levels. And I think he's a brilliant coach. He's done wonders with them defensively. But I don't think it'll amount to really getting near enough to challenge Celtic. But do comment below as to what you think as well. So, as well this weekend, it was the start of our Premiership, Championship, SPFL season. Yes, the football is back. Very exciting to see. I was down in my usual spot at the Falkirk Stadium, which was very, very exciting on the playlist. It's one of my jobs. So just getting all the hype tunes out the way as quick as we possibly could in case, we don't need them for later on this season, which hopefully isn't the case. In terms of actually where I source some of my music from, Grand Theft Auto. Really, really good source. Today I was going for a theme of youth, Falkirk 15 signing, so getting the youngsters in. So I went for Kids by Robbie Williams, which is on Non-Stop Pop radio, I think on GTA 5. And also a song called Some Kind of Wonderful, I think by the Garfield Brothers, which is on, and this is a throwback, so anyone that remembers this, a radio station called The Dust on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. My flatmates at uni introduced me to that station there. So like if you remember those. So that's where those songs came from. Anyway, to the Falkirk performance itself, those who are interested, much the same, I think, from the way things finished last season, just lacking that creativity in the midfield to kind of push things on. It was very back to front from defence up to attack. The new striker on loan from Dundee, actually Marcus Haber, I thought did a brilliant job at winning the ball, left, right and centre. He was constantly up in the air, winning headers, much like a new Lee Miller, but hopefully a more goal-scoring one for Falkirk. When he signed, actually this week, I put up a comment on the Instagram saying I'll be Habering for you. Didn't get any likes. No love. No interest. But I thought that was quite a witty one-liner. No. So, yeah, excited to have him here, but, spent his time with his back to goal, constantly trying to win headers, flick things on, and it wasn't happening. There was no running in the Falkirk team. I think they just weren't getting beyond the last defender, making those incisive runs to get one-on-one with the keeper, Mark Richards, I think, for Inverness. But, the game finished 1-0. It should be pointed out, I thought Falkirk were good for a draw. I didn't think Inverness really tested, Leo Fazan that much. The goal that they did score Inverness after 10 minutes was a good goal. It was whipped in from the left-hand side, and George Oakley on the end of it to finish. I thought actually George Oakley was very good in the game, just kind of bullying the Falkirk defence, getting people riled up. I thought there was a few kind of cheeky tactics there. But I thought he played quite well alongside Nathan Austin, who maybe didn't quite have the impact he would have liked. But Inverness were my pick for the championship winners this season. Am I so convinced now? Perhaps not. I think that was a bit of a lucky victory for them today. Falkirk had a goal chopped off for as far as we can tell at the moment. No real reason, so that was a bit of a let off for them. I think so. I'll be keen to go back and watch how that one went down. I'm not so sure what went on there, but we'll wait and see. I think elsewhere in the park. But yeah, I think in that first 10 minutes, actually, it was the best I've seen Falkirk play in a long, long time. So encouraging signs, hopefully, for the new season. I know reading some comments from a lot of fans, not a lot of effort from the players was the criticism, and I can certainly see that, in that. I think some of the wide midfielders maybe didn't chase down some of the balls in the way they could have, especially when you're 1-0 down when you're chasing the game. A few friends as well, I've singled out a few players. I think the highlights for them was defenders running forward, which is not what you want to see offensively. Criticism as well of the experienced midfielder Paul Payton, who I think a number of teams were quite interested in. I think, for the experienced man of the team, you would maybe hope for a bit more. For me, he played with a bit of fire today, which was great to see, because it's something they've been missing from the midfield sorely. He was getting into passionate tackles involved. Again, sadly not, affecting that much, and not much came of that play. So it's adding that, and just getting the creativity in the midfield for Falkirk would sort a lot of things. In terms of Inverness, did what they needed to do today, and I think once they got that first goal into the second half, it was very much shut up shop. Falkirk, when they came forward, were predictable. Inverness figured out quite quickly how to deal with that. And it's, I always go back to motor racing analogies, and it's when you approach the bumper of another car, and this is an analogy I've used before, you start going the same speed, you start using the same braking spots. In the same way, as soon as you approach them, you have to pass them quickly. So in football, you'd have to score quickly. So they can't figure out your best tactics. They don't know what you're doing. And if that doesn't work, it needs to change. It needs to try something different. And I think today, Hartley with the 4-3-3, which is a slightly newer formation, considering Falkirk, I think, very much in the 3-5-2 last season, it wasn't working out for them. The wingers weren't really getting the joy. The crosses weren't of enough quality, and there was just not enough support in the middle for that to work. And sadly, things didn't change. The same outcome was going to be apparent, wasn't it? So that didn't quite pan out. Elsewhere in the Championship, just a wee quick sort of rundown of what we saw, what went on. Ayr United getting off the ground again, 5 victories in a row. They beat Partick Thistle 2-0. Lawrence Shankland with another brace. I think 9 already for the season, and we've barely even got underway. That boy is a real specialist, in these leagues, and it's impressive to see. He had loan spells out at St Mirren, didn't really pan out there. Morton didn't really pan out there. And he's just lit the world on fire for Ayr United. I think they're quite resigned to losing him, but it looks like, it's kind of impending. Partick, it was interesting to see, we spoke about them in the previews having quite, a solid, dependable team. But a lot of changes in that squad, sort of 5-6 and only a bench of 4. And with Stephen Lawless going out to Livingston, in the week. He was quite a creative force for them. So a little bit of work to be done there. Dundee United, crashing and burning in style as they always do. Losing their first game 3-2 at home in an exciting game against Dunfermline. Louis Longridge getting a brace of goals there. So I would be amazed, if they continue in this form, because it was always them, that would get the nuts results. I think Falkirk beat them 6-1 at the Falkirk Stadium last year. So they just need some consistency, some solidity at the back, because it's not going to happen for them. I'd be amazed to say, Shaba Laszlo stay on. Elsewhere, we tipped Inverness, for the title with a narrow 1-0 victory. Also Ross County, only beating League One new boys up to the Championship, Alloa 1-0, with a very, very late goal. So, some of the stronger teams that we might have expected to do well, maybe not so much. We'll need to wait and see how they pan out. And finally, in the Premiership today, all was kind of pretty much as expected. Celtic running out 3-1 winners against Livingston. Hearts, a thumping performance against Hamilton. So, I had some doubts about them pre-season, but they've obviously, come back, got it sorted for the competitive games, which is interesting to see because, we always try and go on Betfred's Cup form on the podcast to see how they do there. And you can never tell a lot from the Betfred Cup at all. It's just never panned out that way. And Hearts, getting booed, I think they were saying on the radio, against Cowdenbeath when it was 0-0 at half time, to going out 5-0 winners. Same sort of thing here. They've really sorted their act, and that 4-1 win against Hamilton away from home is a good victory to start off the season for them. Kilmarnock beating St Johnstone 2-0. Pretty standard. I know we were shocked about St Johnstone being so low in John's predictions last week, I think second bottom, but it seems like some of the bookies have got them down there. Although people giving big licks to Tony Watt, saying what a talent he is. So could he be the saviour for them? We will wait and see. And finally, on the Saturday game, St Mirren 2, Dundee 1, an enthralling up and down game. Alan Stubbs was a little bit lacklustre in his interview after, I think, he's still quite, getting used to that job, trying to get things sorted down there, but a good victory for St Mirren against, a team that could be a 6-point game, already in the season. Dundee won't be happy to lose that. Sadly recorded on Saturday this, so I don't know, as of yet, the result of the Rangers Aberdeen game. That might be a blessing in disguise. So do let me know in the comments down below. But before we finish, just to read out a few of the comments from last week's. So this week we had Scotty2507 telling us that the guy in the middle, so that's Darren from last week's podcast, looks like Darryl Duffy, which I think he does. So if you're watching the videos, if you're not watching the videos, actually check them out. We're on YouTube, doing quite well at the moment. We've also had, regular commenter, Mr. I'm going to call him because that's the only way I can pronounce this, saying that the Heart striker Ikpezu is better than Cole Stockton. From last year, he also thinks that Cosgrove's about the same as Jayden Stockley. I think I'd argue slightly better on the performance of last week, so we'll wait and see there. And we also have Ryan Martin commenting, are you going to do a review in today's games? Well, I've tried my best to, Ryan, sorry. So hopefully that's good enough for you. Anyway, I think that's enough of my dictatorship on this week's extra podcast, and I've already received messages from you telling me to shush. That's my phone just going off. So thank you very much for listening, and the normal podcast should resume next week. So if you've enjoyed this, give a like, give a subscribe. Also, give your comments in below. This has very much been me kind of talking to camera, and I'd love to know what you think on my daft opinions on this episode. So thanks for joining me, and have a good morning, a good afternoon, and a good evening. Bye bye.